Thank you for joining me today. It's Brian Gubernick, and welcome to the No Days Off podcast, where we believe that every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. There is a dangerous place in business that I think almost every entrepreneur enters at some point in their career. And the interesting thing, and even the scary part about this is while you're in it, it feels exactly like failure. It's called the Valley of Despair. The Valley of Despair. And at first, every new venture doesn't expect it coming because out the gate, every new venture feels exciting. You launch the business, you hire the people, you announce the vision, you map out the future. There's a ton of energy here. And for a little while, energy alone carries you. But then reality arrives. For example, your new hires aren't producing yet, or expenses rise faster than revenue. Maybe some of the systems break. Maybe the culture's getting tested. Maybe you even have some customers that are complaining. So remember, you had this grand vision. You were so excited, and then reality sets in, and growth is not quite like you thought it was going to be. You start questioning the strategy. And then eventually you hit the valley. That moment where effort is still incredibly high, but visible results are shockingly or disappointingly low. And when you study not necessarily failure, but where those tap out, where individuals tap out, where they quit, it's in this particular valley. It's right in this valley where most people quit. Not because they lack talent or not because the opportunity wasn't real. It's not because success was even impossible. They quit because emotionally the valley convinces them that the pain is permanent. And I think that's what makes the valley of despair so dangerous because it lies to you in many cases. It tells you, "Hey, this isn't working. You made the wrong call here. You're way behind. Everyone else around you has figured this out except you." But often the truth here is much simpler. You're just in the valley of despair. You're just in the lag. See, business, at least my experience with business is filled with delayed rewards. You recruit somebody awesome today, but you may not see their production for 6 months. You create some amazing content today, and it takes years to build the trust from that content. You improve your culture, your organizational culture today, but retention doesn't show up till many, many months down the road. Bottom line, you implement certain systems today, and you feel friction well before you start to feel the efficiency. The most meaningful things that I found in business tend to compound slowly before they compound dramatically. It's usually really, really, really slow and then all of a sudden. But emotionally, we want immediate validation. That's how we're wired. That's why the valley becomes such a defining moment for entrepreneurs. Because business is not just strategic, it is very emotional. I mean, no matter how unemotional a being you are, there's still an emotional component. And we talked the other day about not everything is additive, but there's a lot of things in business that are multiplicative, and emotion is driving some of that multiplication. You're seeing it play out right here. I want you to think about it this way. You could have this grand vision, this great vision, and great people and great systems, great marketing. But again, if your emotional state is off as the leader, everything else slows down. And if your emotion is high, it will multiply performance. So teams don't just execute strategy, they also execute through emotion. So emotional regulation matters here during this valley of despair. I'm tying back to what it is we talked about the other day. The valley is going to test your emotional endurance before it even thinks about rewarding your strategic decisions. Now, something I want to be clear around here. I don't think that every valley should be endured forever. Some ideas are just bad. Some partnerships probably are wrong. Some businesses truly are failing. So don't chalk it up to just being in this valley of despair. This is where I think mature leadership starts to matter. You have to learn the difference between temporary pain and permanent dysfunction. And it's pretty darn hard because while you're inside that valley, they often feel pretty much as to be the same thing. But here's what I've personally observed. Many entrepreneurs abandon things that were actually about to work. They stop one quarter too early or one hire too early, one adjustment too early, one difficult season too early. And then they never stay around long enough for compounding to show up. Meanwhile, the people we admire most are often not the smartest people in the room. They're the ones who maintain conviction the longest, or at least long enough for all of that invisible work to become visible. And I think that that's the game that so many of us play. The valley is where discipline gets tested and your identity gets tested and emotional control that gets tested there as well. Anybody can lead when momentum is obvious. But leadership starts to become real when the results are unclear and fatigue starts to set in and it's high and doubt is very, very loud. So if you're in the valley right now, remember a lot of hype and then reality began to set in. And now you're like, okay, I bet on all I made all these moves. I'm waiting for them to come to fruition. And this is really hard. If you're in the valley right now, then that's great news. You're probably closer than you think. But you do need to ask yourself a hard question. Is this truly failure? Like, am I failing? Or is this simply the season where the roots that I worked so hard to plant and grow, where the roots are growing underground before anyone can maybe see the tree? Because the valley has ended a lot of dreams for entrepreneurs. A lot of dreams that probably would have worked. And it wasn't because, again, of strategy failure. It was because the emotion failed first. And I want you to think around that as your action item today. I want you to identify one area of your business or your life where you may be emotionally interpreting delayed results as failure. Where are you emotionally interpreting delayed results as failure? And then ask yourself, what evidence suggests this is temporary friction instead of permanent defeat? What evidence suggests this is temporary friction instead of permanent defeat? See, sometimes the breakthrough is not changing the strategy. Sometimes it's just surviving the valley long enough for the strategy to finally start to compound. That's all I have for you today in the No Days Off podcast. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, every single day brings a new opportunity to get better. So let's get after it.